So more and more Americans are no longer using credit, which I generally think is a good thing. I think if you can pay for everything you can cash, and by cash I just mean with what you have in the bank. I don't mean literal cash, but if you can use literal cash, it's even better. That means they can't track your spending and can't track the things that you buy so that they can advertise to you more. But let's get into some of these clips. Welcome back to all the returning viewers. And if you're new here, welcome to the war. Let's get into it.
On today's episode of Things I Don't Give a Fuck About because I don't subscribe to the reality everybody else does, credit scores. Credit karma. Oh, your score has increased. Why do I give a fuck? Them shits are so predatory. You're trying to tell me that my worthiness as a human is directly tied to how you think I manage my money.
It's not your worthiness as a human being. It's your worthiness with money. It's your financial responsibility. Now, I'm of the proponent of never using credit, but let's not try to pretend like that's how they're judging you as a person. And I don't like that. I do think that is predatory. I don't think that people should tie their self-worth into their credit scores. However, your credit score is a direct representation of your responsibility level. I completely twisted my tongue there. But yeah, it's not your worthiness as a human being. It's just your worthiness to pay back other people's money.
All the gazillionaires leverage credit and debt in order to create their money. But when I use it, it's bad. If I don't pay on time, I'm worthless.
No, that's not the case. And I'm starting to cut it off this often, but you said it. They leverage debt. There's a difference between leveraging debt and using debt to go watch Chris Brown and Usher on tour. There's a difference between leveraging debt and buying a new pair of shoes or a new purse or any other new bag that you want that you really don't need. And yes, when you don't pay back on time, your score goes down, but that is not your worthiness as a human being. That's your worthiness to borrow more money. If you do not subscribe to the whole credit system and you just never use credit, it's perfectly fine. You guys can even buy a house without a credit score. I'm not saying if you have bad credit. I'm talking about if you have a zero credit score, like no history to track, you can still buy a home. It's called manual underwriting, where you go in, you give them the last 2 years of bank statements, last 2 years of tax returns, and then you show some kind of rental histories. The underwriters can do something called manual underwriting, and you can use that to buy a house. So you can buy a house with a zero credit score. Now, buying a car, you'd have to pay for it cash. There's no manual underwriting when it comes to cars, but you can buy a house with a zero credit score. So you don't have to subscribe to the credit system if you don't want to.
You will never ever get me to believe that my worthiness as a human needs to be justified through a random score that this ghetto ass country made up. I don't give a fuck, and neither should you. This shit is lame.
Let's get out of this idea that it's just some random score. No. The score is literally based on very specific factors. Time of credit, on-time payments, how much credit you have, debt to income ratio, how much credit you used versus how much credit you have, like your whole entire credit usage percentage. Like, it's not random. It's very calculated, it's very specific, but it's not a measure of your worth. The only reason you would feel like this is if you feel like garbage because you know you can't pay your debts back. And like I said, you don't have to subscribe to it. I'm of the proponent of freeing yourself from all this. The name of this channel is Emancipation. I want you guys to emancipate yourselves from mental slavery, emancipate yourselves from debt, emancipate yourselves from all this. I call you guys the Revolutionary Army because we're revolting in a very quiet, calm manner. We're just withdrawing. We're withdrawing from the credit system. We're buying everything cash. We're keeping the money in the community, keeping the money flowing with each other instead of making these corporations much richer. I don't hate corporations. I'm not against corporations, but I do feel like some of the things they can do could be a little predatory, but we need to take responsibility on our end for our part in it. We subscribe to it. We use the buy now, pay laters. We use the Klarnas, the PayPals, the Affirms. We use that. So they're going to keep jacking up the prices and then giving you a way to afford those prices, and then you're going to pay for it over time through credit. Now you're paying $1,000 for a pair of $300 shoes that you wore a couple of times and nobody really cared about. So I do believe in withdrawing from the whole credit system if you can, but let's not pretend like we don't have a part in this as well. They can only do to us what we allow.
One of the greatest things my wife and I have ever done for our finances is cut up our credit cards and only use debit. It has forced us to create a budget and to stick to it every month, because there is no overspending when you're only using debit. Otherwise, you'll overdraft. This month, we've ran out of what we call our restaurant budget, and yesterday we really wanted sushi, but we can't afford sushi right now. So we got an alternative that we can afford. And I know there are people out there who are throwing the luxury of a credit card at things that they cannot afford because it's way out of the budget that they never created. And an objection that I've gotten since telling people and encouraging people to only use debit is, well, how am I supposed to buy a house without a credit score? My wife and I just purchased a house a couple months ago, and our credit scores are criminally low because we don't have credit. I think my credit score is at like low 600s, and yet our loan officer was still able to make it happen. So I make this video as encouragement to those who are tired of feeling like they can't get ahead financially and are tired of feeling like they can't get closer to the financial goals that they've set out for themselves because they have this payment that they have to make every single month.
I agree with him on a few things here. So he said he had a sushi, but they have a restaurant budget. They wanted sushi, couldn't afford it, and they didn't use credit. I'm proud of him. This is how you should live life. Now, that being said, there are certain risks that come with having or using everything on debit, because it is a lot easier to get defrauded. To get frauded when it comes to using a debit card. And when you get frauded on a debit card, it's your personal money, versus if they fraud you on a credit card, that's the company's money, and they're going to do everything to get their money back because it's insured a lot of times. So when you use debit card all the time, there is that risk. I don't know of any way to mitigate that. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna let you guys know and make a video about if I can find a way to mitigate the risks of using your debit card everywhere. But they said they were able to buy a house with like a criminally low credit score. It's harder when you have a low credit score compared to a zero credit score. I'm curious as to what their interest rates are, but it is very possible. You don't need to subscribe to this credit system. They're doing the best things for them, and they're living within their means. Living within your means is possible. You guys just want to live outside of your means. You see the people on social media taking these fancy trips, eating at expensive restaurants, buying all these things, and you want to live like them, but you don't know what they did to get that. You don't know if they're being paid to say that, they're being paid to go to these restaurants. You don't know if they're over there overdrafting themselves to portray a lifestyle for you to aspire to. You don't know any of these things. Do you know how some of these women make their money? There's this thing called porta potties where they go to Dubai and they let these Saudi princes take dumps on them. Like literally a porta potty, you nasty. Anyway, I don't know about y'all, but it'd be a cold day in hell before I let anybody take a crap on me for any kind of money. My managers at work crap on me enough. Pause. Like, I wasn't a pause moment, but my managers shit on me enough at work, so I'm not gonna go have literal crap thrown on me. You don't know what people do to get their money. So trust and believe, do not aspire to live like some of these people. They are living bad. Like, how down bad do you have to be to say you gonna let somebody just excrete their bowels on you? Like, go do something more respectable. Go be a stripper or a drug dealer or something. I feel like that's more respectable than going out there. Which is crazy to say. I never thought I'd say being a stripper is more respectable than a lot of things, but it's an honest living. It's an honest living compared to going over there and letting these Saudi princes take dumps on you, walking out smelling like boo-boo and hummus. It's crazy.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but you know what's keeping a lot of people broke? These right here. Credit cards, it's a real killer to your financial situation. And it's because they traps. They lead you to believe that you actually have more money than you actually have. You go apply for a credit card, they approve you, they give you your limit depending on what credit card it is. It might be a $1,500 limit, it might be a $25,000 limit. Depending on some cards, there's no limits. You can spend up to $100,000, $150,000. And now you actually believe that whatever you was approved for, that's your money. So you get out here and start actually spending like you have the money in your bank account that the credit card people gave you approval of. And
that's a big thing. There's this psychological aspect of if you have a credit card with $10,000 that you have $10,000. No, every time you swipe that card, you're saying, let me borrow $20 real quick. Let me borrow $50 real quick. Let me borrow $100 real quick. And then you use that, and then eventually they're going to be like, I'm going to need that 100 back. And if you take too long, they're going to be like, give me 110 actually. Give me 120 because you took so long to give me my money back. You can 1000% use your credit card to leverage your life in a positive way. Like, you can use it to build your credit score, and credit scores as a whole, unless you're planning on taking out like large loans, it's really not necessary. Even if it's for a business, there's specific business loans that you can get. You have to just prove that your business is somewhat profitable, or not necessarily profitable, but brings in a certain amount of income so you can scale up your business. Like, there are ways to leverage credit that don't involve your personal self using credit. So yeah, makes people think that they have way more money than they have. Especially, I don't know who gets a no limit credit card. If you have a no limit credit card, that means your credit is probably already very good and your income is very high. So if you have a no limit credit card, I would assume you're financially responsible. But that's not true. There's many people who are making $200,000, $300,000 a year, crazy debt, living paycheck to paycheck like the rest of us. Like, they have a big house, a nice car, this and that, but they're living paycheck to paycheck just like you. They're a few bad checks away from getting foreclosed on. So it happens.
And next thing you know, you're in this perpetual cycle of always spending, 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 spending. Then you look up and realize you $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 in credit card debt, and you don't even know what you spent it on. Now, instead of you being able to stack money, invest money into things, you got to pay down this credit card debt, but you don't even have the money in the first place. A rule of thumb I tell people is if you don't have the money in your actual account times 2 or whatever you're spending, do not use a credit card to buy it.
I say this. If you can't buy 4 of them, you can't afford 1 of them. That's my personal opinion on anything. If you can't afford 4 of them right now, cash out the bank, then you shouldn't be buying it. If I want a pair of $200 shoes, if I could spend $800 right now and it wouldn't hurt me, then I'll buy the $200 shoes. But if I can't do that, then I'm not paying for it. That's my personal thing. I'm not telling you guys what to do. But yeah, you guys shouldn't be out here ordering freaking DoorDash on Klarna. You out here financing Wingstop. What is wrong with you? You guys need to get out of this credit system because you guys are out here ruining your future. You're gambling the future away right now. And it's like, it'd be one thing if you were swiping your credit card to buy equipment because you want to start a business. Let's say if you took out a credit card for, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and then you used it to buy pressure washing equipment because you want to go start a pressure washing business. I get that because that's an investment. But using it for like day-to-day spending, just stupid, in my personal opinion.
For example, do not go out here and spend $10,000 on a credit card if you don't have $20,000 in your actual account that you could pay the 10 back. In my opinion, unless you're using your credit cards for like business to scale and grow your business and make more money, or if you're using it for like flights, trips, like hotels, gas and stuff like that, you probably shouldn't really be using it at all. Because when you get sucked into it, it's easy to just keep swiping and keep going. And next thing you know, you in a big ass trap under a huge amount of debt. And that goes for people that's building. If you building, you grinding, you trying to work your way up, you trying to save your first 10 bands, your first 20 bands, your first 50 bands, please stay away. Stay away from these. These will get you caught up, especially if you're not using them properly and using them wisely.
I would 1000% agree. He said the same thing I said. If you're not using it for business purposes, it don't make sense. And honestly, it is too easy to swipe, even when it comes to a debit card. Me personally, like I said, I don't recommend this for other people, but I like to take out my weekly budget in cash. Also, that takes away my ability to use it on Amazon, because I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes I scroll through Amazon the way people scroll through TikTok, just looking for something to spend money on. But I actually took the Amazon app off of my phone, and I only log into Amazon on my computer when I need something, because I knew that it was a trap for me. So you got to figure out yourself. I know that if Amazon is on my phone, if I'm bored, I'll get on there. And I'm just scrolling like, you know what? I might need this. I might need that. And it's bad. So I deleted it. You need to put in systems in place. That way you can protect yourself. You know what a system is, right? SYSTEM. Saving yourself time, energy, and money. So you put in systems to protect yourself from getting into this credit and debit, getting into this credit hole. But to get back to the point I was making, I take my money out in cash. That way, let's say I take out $300 for the week. That is my spending budget for this week. When I see that $300 turn to $250, turn to $170, turn to $60, I'm like, yo, it's been 3 days. How am I down to my last 60 in 3 days? It happens. Once you start taking your money out in cash, you can actually see it start to disappear, and you are way more conscious of it. Whereas swiping, that is so impersonal. It makes it too easy to do.
So I'm gonna tell y'all why I stopped using credit cards. So up until recently, I had stopped using credit cards. It's been like over 3 years actually. And one of the reasons why I stopped using credit cards was because I had over $65,000 in business, personal loans, credit cards, business credit cards, etc. Safe to say that those credit cards got me into a lot of trouble. So although it's heavily marketed, this whole credit funding thing, and it can be extremely beneficial for many people out there, however, let me tell you the truth. Most people's problems is that they don't need more funding. What they really need is structure and strategy.
This is true. This is a side note. Learn how to edit your damn videos. Like, cut out the portion where you're reaching out and touching the screen. Like, I don't want to see that. By the time you guys see this, you're not going to see each time I'm clicking. Anyway, but let's continue the video.
And the reason is because regardless, having other people's money isn't always going to solve your problem. If you're an entrepreneur, your number one priority should be building a cash-based business, period. Credit cards and loans should just be extra, right? And so that's exactly why I stopped using credit cards.
So the reason I had to stop using credit cards was because they had become like a drug to me. Like, I couldn't stop using them. I would use them for everything, and I used them in between getting paid, and it became a super bad habit, just like cigarettes. So credit card debt is bad.
One of my 2025 goals is stop using that credit card. Like, if you can't buy it with cash, then you do not need to be buying it.
Yeah, these videos are getting repetitive. You guys get the point. If you can, try to avoid using credit. I know all the credit gurus, the house hacking gurus, the house flipping people are going to tell you, nah, man, you need credit to survive. You need credit to buy a house. You do not. You do not. I promise you, you don't. My ability to spend other people's money does not interest me. And I'm not saying this as a person who's never used credit. I'm actually speaking from the perspective of somebody who was in crippling debt before. I was so bad with money at a point, it was crazy. I was drowning where pretty much my entire check was going to paying off debt. It happens. People end up in crippling debt, and I was one of them. That's why I try to warn other people right now. Stay away from that nonsense. Debt is like having a toxic relationship that you know you shouldn't be a part of. You know, like when you with that chick, you with that dude that you know you shouldn't be dealing with, and you get that momentary pleasure, equivalent of swiping a credit card. You get that momentary pleasure, and then afterwards you get that post clarity. Yeah, you get that same kind of clarity when that item gets there, and it's cool for a moment. You get a little dopamine rush that, whoo, yeah, it's nice. And then you look at your credit account and you see that you owe that money, and you look at the interest rate and it's like, that clarity kicks in. That post dopamine clarity you get after you done spent your money, you blew your load. Now it's like, I really shouldn't have done that, but you guys are too prideful to return it. It's crazy. Credit cards are a bad thing. That I recommend debit, and if you can, cash, because you can actually see the money going away. I promise you, it's a powerful tool. Imagine if dudes were able to use debit cards at a strip club, just swiping up and down the stripper's butt cheeks. What would happen then? By the time he left there, he wouldn't have no money left. He'd be declined after that, like the 10th swipe. That's why sometimes you need to use cash. You can see the money leave your hand, and you know when it's time to slow down. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Iman. This is Emancipation. If you like this video, go check out some more videos on my page. Check out one of the ones recommended here below. Thank you again for tuning into the Revolutionaries. Welcome to the war. We're fighting the good fight and fighting credit. Be easy.